Good morning, good morning. Welcome all community builders. I can feel the energy in this room this morning. Just to start off, I woke up at about 3 o'clock this morning. Sense of urgency today. And I can sense the power in this room, and I'm so excited to see all of you here today and to be part of this wonderful cause 10-year celebration. Please take your seats if you're out in the lobby. We are ready to get started. I'm going to utilize today a process that CAUSE has inaugurated and utilized since its inception, and it's Connection Talk, Conocimiento. In our community, share and learn. We have all these wonderful leaders, grassroots, some legislators, politicians, young folks, business people. And the sense of urgency for me is every day this week I read some startling headline about the state of our economy, education, and so many other issues that we fight for every day. So I take today as I'm on holy ground. And I think that the deliberations, activities, and decisions that we make today, and most importantly the connections that we make, are pivotal for the next paradigm of community building work. So at your table, we have a CAUSE talking stone. And you'll see that big stone. There's some small stones, but there's a big stone. Marcus is going to hold it up for you at this time. And we're going to utilize the talking stone to connect with one another. Because we realize that not everyone, I told you the energy is strong here. Okay? We're going to use the talking stone to connect with one another. We realize that people from various backgrounds are around the table, and we do not want this just to be a lunch meeting. We want this to be a change meeting, a paradigm shifting meeting, an energy meeting, as my dear sister Lenore said today. So the process is pretty simple. There are some questions printed on a yellow card on your desk. A table host will facilitate the questions. We want each person to take a minute. I know there's some pastors in here and some politicians in here, but you only get a minute, okay? We want you to facilitate those questions, get to know one another, honor the talking stone, that very, very humble process where when that stone is in your hand, all ears are listening. No crosstalk. Honor the person speaking. Get to know the person and people at your table. So at this time, you have about 10 minutes to connect, and we ask that you have a wonderful time, and let's continue to community build today. Thank you so much.
Welcome, everybody. So, thank you to Reverend Jim Gilmer for kicking us off in this community building luncheon, which is about building community. So, we're hoping that you all had your 1 minute to shine, to share about the passion that drives you and that has driven you, hopefully here today, to join us at CAUSE. My name is Marisela Morales, and I am Deputy Executive Director of CAUSE. Welcome to CAUSE's 5th Community Building Luncheon and 10-year celebration. Over the past 5 years, CAUSE has brought us together. Some today for the first time. Through this special community building luncheon, and over the past 10 years, CAUSE has moved us, individually and collectively, to realize a vision. The vision that together we can and do help create a global community where we all contribute to, and most importantly, where we all benefit from a sustainable economy that is just, prosperous, and environmentally healthy. I invite you to take a look through your CAUSE brochure, which should be at your table, and take a look and scan some of the highlights of what together with CAUSE we have done for a more just, prosperous, and environmentally healthy community. There is more to be done. CAUSE invites you to join us in using a 7 generations approach to the public policies that we make through our civic participation from the local to the national level. Also at your table, we offer each of you a small stone with the CAUSE name and symbol. It's more than a token of appreciation for celebrating our first 10 years with us, struggling together for social, economic, and environmental justice. Stones in the Native American tradition, and we do stand on Native American ground, the Chumash peoples were here before us. They represent our ancestors. This small gift from CAUSE is a call to join us in working for social, economic, and environmental justice with clear intention and purpose. We are not alone. We stand on the shoulders of giants like Martin Luther King Jr., Cesar Chavez, Paula Gunn Allen, Alice Paul, Aung San Suu Kyi, and so many more. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin is quoted as saying, "Someday, after mastering winds, waves, tides, and gravity, we shall harness the energies of love. And then, for the second time in history, man and woman will have discovered fire." I would say that if we are to master the winds, waves, tides, and gravity of apathy, of fear, racism, classism, and all forms of injustice that hold us down and hold us back, it will only be through the daily rediscovery of that fire. That fire within us all that knows that we are better. We are better than this legacy of the working poor struggling to survive, of a tax on the middle class, using immigrants as scapegoats, and on that trap us still today. We are here today to rediscover and strengthen that fire together for social, economic, and environmental justice that sets us free. And now, this morning I have the honor of introducing to you our distinguished Master of Ceremony. Dr. Manuel Pastor is a renowned author and professor of Latin American and Latino studies, writing and speaking frequently on such issues as demographic change, economic inequality, community empowerment, and race relations. His book, Regions That Work: How Cities and Suburbs Can Grow Together, is a required text in most university urban planning and public policy courses. His most recent book, Uncommon Common Ground: Race and America's Future, calls for a new kind of leadership toward a fully inclusive America. Manuel holds a PhD in economics from the University of Massachusetts Amherst and has received numerous fellowships for his work, including those from the Danforth, Guggenheim, and Kellogg Foundations, and grants from the Irvine, Rockefeller, MacArthur, and Ford Foundations, as well as the National Science Foundation. Dr. Pastor currently serves as the founding director of the USC Center for Environmental and Regional Equity, where he has worked with CAUSE on a number of important policy research projects. He also heads the USC Center for Immigrant Integration. It gives me great pleasure to introduce to you our Master of Ceremony, Dr. Manuel Pastor.
Let's give it up for Marisela Morales. She's an amazing leader and incredibly popular. Every time I just introduce her, we get a round of applause, so it's quite exciting. On behalf of the Cause Board, staff, and active Cause community leaders, I'd like to welcome you to this community building luncheon, and thank you for joining us today. I'm honored to once again be the Master of Ceremony, something I'll come back to. But some of you may have noticed that this luncheon keeps moving every year. And it reminds me of the story my mother tells. She grew up in Spanish Harlem, and they used to move every 3 or 4 months when the rent came due. And I'm actually wondering if that's what's happening, Marcos, with this particular thing. Particularly since the instructions at the end of the lunch is to duck your heads and run out as quickly as you can. One of the things that's amazing, though, is how many people have come to this event. This is an important event. And I think this is more people than Cause had projected, more than could be fit in. And so we at Cause are very excited about this. Again, my name is Manuel Pastor. Some of you may recognize the fact that this is actually my 5th time serving as the Master of Ceremonies. I appreciate that, although I must say that I feel a little bit like John Warner, who was Elizabeth Taylor's 7th husband, who is reputed to have said, "I know what I'm supposed to do, but how do I make it exciting?" No, really, that's what you're thinking, really. So I'm honored to be back. Like I said, Cause has to actually move not simply to escape the rent, but really to try to honor different places. So last year, Rick Cole hosted Cause in Ventura, this year in Oxnard. And I think that all of us are proud to mention that aside from sharing a beautiful coast and a beautiful legacy, Oxnard and Ventura share the fact that they're both living wage cities. And you should all be proud that you're in fact living in what's probably the nation's only living wage region. Because it's not just the 2 cities I mentioned, but Port Hueneme, Oxnard, Santa Barbara, County of Ventura have all adopted living wage ordinances and policies. That's very impressive, and part of the reason is the work of Cause. Let's give them a hand. So many of you who are here are already familiar with Cause. They're one of the Central Coast treasures, and I'll say in a second they're one of the nation's treasures as well. They've been working here for 10 years for social, economic, and environmental justice in the Central Coast. How many of you have been to one of these lunches before? How many of you are new people to the lunches? Great. You are about to be so excited that you will open up your checkbooks at the end of this lunch, and you will not only devote a significant amount of money and energy, but perhaps your firstborn child. It's really that important. So I want to say a couple of things about change, and then a couple of things about Cause. And these are related. We live in a country right now which is highly polarized, and in a state which is not arriving at effective solutions to the problems that we have. We just saw earlier this week the new figures on poverty. They were at the highest poverty levels nationwide and in the state that we've been in 20 years. And we've got politicians dithering about what to do about it while people are suffering. And I think the message that Cause wants to make sure that you hear today is 3 things. One is that change, which is needed, takes courage. It's going to require all of us to step up. It's going to require all of us to be brave, to challenge the powers that be, and to have vision. Change takes courage. Change takes compassion. It requires being able to connect with people who are in pain. It requires being able to connect with people who are on the other side of the aisle politically or ideologically, to make the connections, to understand where they're coming from, to understand the anxieties. Change takes compassion. But most of all, change takes cause. It takes purpose. It takes a sense of where you're going. And it takes an organization like Cause to be able to make change happen. So we're really glad that you're here today. And I spend a lot of time going around the country. I have one of the world's best jobs. I wanted to grow up and be an economist, if you can believe that. But most of all, I wanted to grow up and be an academic whose work would be intimately related with social change organizations. And so I have the opportunity to go around the country and speak and do research on social change, social justice organizations all over the place. And one of the things that is fascinating is how few of these social change organizations have the breadth and scope of Cause. This is an organization that not only has been able, through difficult economic times, to continue to expand its staff and address important issues and build an institution, but it's also been an organization that's been able to make the connections around the environment and environmental justice, that's been able to make the connections around economic justice and the living wage, that's been able to build connections across geography, and most of all, Cause has brought soul to this work. Cause has recognized that if we're talking about leaving a better planet, that we must be talking about improving how we relate to one another. We must be talking about paying attention to our own souls and to others. And one of the main leaders in doing this, in bringing both this political vision of building power and of making change, but of having it rooted in the deep sense that we need to be as good as the society we say we're aspiring to. One of the main leaders in this has been Cause's leader, Dr. Marcos Vargas. I've known Marcos now for many years. I've gotten to be very close to him, despite the fact that I'm from USC and he graduated from UCLA. That took many sweat lodges and spiritual work, and then eventually family therapy. But we've been able to bond. Now, Cause has a magnificent history, but it's got a magnificent recent history, too. As you know, they've been recently trying to geographically expand their organizing, advocacy, and electoral power-building work to the entire Central Coast. So this is Ventura, Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, Santa Cruz, Monterey, and San Benito counties. They've been engaged in very effective work around redistricting and civic engagement, looking to empower many people to be able to participate more. And in fact, they've been part of the California Calls program to try to mobilize voters who've not traditionally voted. And I'm proud to say that Cause is one of the organizations in the state, and the Central Coast is one of the locations in the state that in fact exceeded the numbers that were expected and have been able to really mobilize a lot of new voters to make a difference in elections. I know that Marcos right now is wondering, he gave me a script, why am I saying all this stuff instead? But anyway, Cause remains ambitious. If you look in your green program, you'll see a couple of pages in, after the wonderful biographies of Sheila Kuehl and, of course, Manuel Pastor, that the objectives for the year to come, and those objectives include a couple of things that I just want to highlight. One is increasing the civic participation and making sure that there's meaningful civic participation. And that means mobilizing voters, encouraging civic participation, etc. But the other really modest objective that Cause has for next year is meaningful tax reform. This we know is a small topic and an easy lift, at least for Cause. So we're expecting to see great things in the year to come. There's one other great thing that's not listed here as a goal for next year, but that I know that is happening, is a sabbatical for Marcos Vargas. So if you see him 6 months from now and he looks remarkably relaxed, that's why. So will they be able to do all these things? I'm sure that they'll be able to do all these things, because one of the things that CAUSE has always been good at is understanding that making social change is not about empire building, it's about movement building. It's not about taking one organization, even as much of a treasure or a pearl as CAUSE might be, and making it the top organization. It's about understanding that that organization exists in relationship with other organizations in an ecosystem of change. And one of the things that CAUSE has been great at is building coalitions with local businesses, with government, with the academy, with grassroots community groups. CAUSE understands that meaningful social change does not come from one organization. It comes from all of us. It's the responsibility of all of us. Change takes courage. Change takes compassion. Change takes CAUSE. By the way, if you hear my voice breaking, it's not just emotion. Some of you who are good friends know that in the last couple of years I developed a speech disorder that gets treated every month or so with Botox, actually, shots into my neck, which is why I look so damn good. But it also leads my voice to break on occasion. So, now, of course, critical to this process of social change is not just the community organizers, but also committed and responsible elected officials. We're honored to have quite a number of these elected officials today, and I'm going to try to recognize all of them. I'm going to ask you to please hold your applause until I've named all of them, for two reasons. One is so that we get through this a little bit more quickly, and the other is so that some people don't get a lot of applause and others get like... and then they wind up feeling bad. I mean, the other alternative here was for them to put their heads down when we announced it, and you to raise your hands for how many of you actually voted for them, but we decided that was also a problematic thing. So, representing Senator Barbara Boxer is Adolfo Bailon. Representing Dianne Feinstein is Elizabeth Delgado. Please raise your hand so we just know where you are, but we won't applaud for you. Representing Lois Capps is Carla Castilla. I believe Fran Pavley is here. I know that Sheila Kuehl is here and will be speaking later. We'll give her thunderous applause. Julie Brownlee is here as well. We have Doss Williams, who's been able to graduate from working for CAUSE to working for a place that sometimes seems like it doesn't have a cause. But Doss, you're going to change all that, aren't you? We have Hannah Beth Jackson, retired California Assembly a woman. We have the California Governor's appointee to the California Commission on Age, Hank Lacayo. We have sitting up front, who I met earlier, Ken Burt from the California Federation of Teachers. We have Linda Parks from the California Ventura County Board of Supervisors. We have Ventura County Supervisor Steve Bennett. Representing County Supervisor Kathy Long, Lauren Bianchi. Representing himself, and I imagine doing quite a good job at it. California County Supervisor John Zaragoza. California County Executive Officer Mike Powers. Ventura County Executive Officer Mike Powers. Ventura County College District Trustee Art Hernandez. California County College District Trustee Diane McKay. Another district trustee, Bernardo Perez. I guess they have a posse here. From the Board of Education, Rachel Ulrich, Ventura County. Superintendent of Schools for Ventura County, Stan Matuth. Thank you. From California Lutheran University, Dr. Chris Kimball. From the mayor of the city of Ventura and the author of a book I've assigned to 200 disgruntled undergraduates, Bill Fulton. They remember you, but not kindly. I try to tell them it's a great book, The Reluctant Metropolis, but they're reluctant to read it. Council members from the city of Ventura, Brian Brennan. Council member from the city of Oxnard, Carmen Ramirez. From the city of Moore Park, 2 council members trying to show up the other cities. David Pollock and Roseanne Mikos. Please stand up. From Port Hueneme, Ellis Green. From the City of Santa Barbara, Grant House. The President of the Oxnard Union High School District, Socorro Lopez Hansen. The Superintendent of the Oxnard Union High School District, Gabe Sumaikan. From the Oxnard School District Board, Al Duff. Santa Paula Union High School District Trustee, Tina Urias. Santa Barbara Unified School District Trustee, Monique Limon. Oxnard Harbor District Commissioner, Jess Ramirez. And Oxnard Harbor District Commissioner, Jason Hodge. And if you are elected and we missed you, we're sorry, but you'll be re-elected. Thank you. So last but not least, not quite last either, I want to recognize our generous sponsors of today's luncheon, businesses, organizations, and individuals who've contributed greatly to making this event a success. And I believe that the names will be coming up on the screens, but let me just mention who they are. One of the key folks, an important partner in the work for a fair and just economy, and the luncheon sponsor is the California Federation of Teachers. Let's give them a big round of applause. And let me mention the others, and let's hold our applause till we almost hold our applause till we get there. So the California Endowment, the Service Employees International Union 721, and I understand that SEIU might be in the house. Kaiser Permanente, the Larry Jantz and Company, and Regenerate Films. We'll hear a little bit more about them later. That's not Degenerate Films, but Regenerate Films. The Cabrillo Economic Development Corporation, Oxnard Federation of Teachers and School Employees, Montecito Bank and Trust, California Lutheran University School of Management, showing that we're even reaching out to the business community and business training, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 952. These union folks get excited. First California Bank, the Congress of California Seniors. By the way, that's a whole other Congress. It's about to get organized, actually, to ask for a different MC next year. So the Plumbers and Steamfitters, Local 484, the Fund for Santa Barbara, Planned Parenthood, the United Food and Commercial Workers Union, Local 1036, and this will make all of us feel not just thankful, but safe. The Ventura County Firefighters Association, Local 1364. We also want to thank all of the individuals that make up the Changemaker individual sponsors. They're listed in your program. But I want to thank another group that doesn't usually get thanked, and that's all the people who showed up here for the first time. You are people who heard from your neighbors, your friends, that CAUSE is an organization that you should get to know about. You heard from your neighbors and your friends that CAUSE is an organization that you should be allied with. You heard from your neighbors and friends that CAUSE is an organization that you should be supporting. And we are so glad that you're here taking that chance to find out more about CAUSE so that perhaps next year, or when we do this again the next time, that you can be listed as a sponsor as well. So can all the first-timers please stand up, and let's everybody give them a round of applause. Okay, well, I think I spoke quickly enough to get us more or less back on time. And so at this time, what I'd like to do is to introduce to you our keynote speaker. And you've got a bio, and I'll repeat just a few things of it, and then I'll close with something that I think is perhaps more important, more significant, and says, I think, something about our speaker. California Senator Sheila Kuehl. if we ever get really good health insurance for everyone, we'll have Sheila Kuehl to thank. Now, Sheila has a history before the Assembly and the Senate, including actually my favorite part of her history was her role in The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis, because that was actually a fantastic program, at least when I was growing up. Although I could never figure out Maynard G. Krebs and why he was allergic to work, and it's something I want to really deal with Sheila about later, but because I think nobody would be allergic to work right now. But she ran for and was the first openly gay or lesbian person to be elected to the California legislature in 1994. She served 8 years in the state Senate, 6 years in the state Assembly, and in 2008 left the legislature, becoming one of the main advertisements for the reasons why we should change term limits. During the 1997-1998 legislative session, she was the first woman in California to be named Speaker Pro Tem of the Assembly. During her tenure in the legislature, she served as chair of the Senate Health Committee, Senate Natural Resources and Water Committee, Assembly Judiciary Committee. She sat as a member on virtually every committee in both houses. She's a founding director. She's actually forming the Congress of California Sitters, actually, because of that. She is the founding director of the Public Policy Institute at Santa Monica College, co-author of Safe at School, Addressing the School Environment and LGBT Safety Through Policy and Legislation, and a number of other things. But she personifies what I said change requires. Change requires cause. And Sheila has always been purpose-driven. She has been about building alliances between people. She has been about understanding that she should carry forward the issues that are dear to her, but the issues that are dear and important to others as well. It requires cause, purpose, coalition. She's always understood that cause of change requires courage. To be the first openly gay or lesbian person to become elected and to run and then to champion a very unpopular thing, health care for everyone, to champion difficult causes, to constantly bring up the issues of the budget and meaningful tax reform. Sheila is nothing if not a profile in courage. And finally, Sheila shows compassion. She shows compassion in her political life, but as I mentioned to her before, and she allowed me to put this in, one of the reasons I know that Sheila Kuehl is a good person is that she is and remains best friends with a person who was her main squeeze for years. So if you can have a relationship and continue to have it be a friendship, you are a person who is seen really into the heart of who people are. Change requires courage. It requires compassion. It requires cause. And we know that change requires Sheila Kuehl.
They give me a little step because I don't know what it is. I used to be 7 feet tall, actually, when I was 14, and it's just been shrinking from there. I am very pleased and very honored. Thank you, Manuel, for that complete overstatement of my virtues, but short of a funeral, you hardly ever get to hear anybody say those kind of nice things about you. So it's always worth showing up as a speaker. I'm going to tell a few stories today in the midst of my remarks that some of you may have heard me tell before. If you have, I beg your indulgence. I'm going to tell them a slightly different way, and if you haven't, I hope you enjoy. But my first story is about 3 women, could have been men, of course, because as we were always told, the word mankind included men and women, although womankind, for some reason, did not. But anyway, I'm just going to say 3 women, but they might have been men. And the first woman is walking down the side of a river, just living her life, and on her way somewhere important, and she hears faint cries out from the middle of the river. She looks out in the river and sees there's a baby that appears to be trying to struggle, but it looks like it might be drowning. She looks upstream, she looks downstream, nobody. So she throws off her clothes, she jumps in the river, she swims out, she grabs the baby, brings it to shore, saves the baby. No sooner has she done that she hears more faint cries out in the middle, looks out, and another baby is out there struggling. So she swims out, brings that baby back to shore, and before she knows it, because there are so many drowning babies, she has started devoting her life swimming out and bringing these babies to shore. And while she's devoting her life to doing that, a second woman walks down the side of the river, sees what's going on, looks upstream, downstream, nobody else to help, throws off her clothes, jumps in the river, and swims out. But the first woman notices, as she brings the babies back to shore, that the second woman has not done that. She's just out in the middle of the river. And the first woman says, hey, what are you doing? Can't you see these babies are drowning? And the second woman says, I'm teaching these babies to swim. So while the first woman's bringing them back one at a time, and the second woman's teaching them to swim, a third woman walks down the side of the river, sees what's going on, turns around and starts walking back upstream. And the two women who by now are devoting their lives to doing this, both yell at her, where are you going? Can't you see that all these babies are drowning? And the third woman says, yeah, I'm going to go see who's throwing these babies in the water. Okay, now I offer this story for a couple of reasons. One is it actually does relate to what we're doing here today. The other is you can use it to start any speech you ever tell. Because pretty much if they invited you to speak, you're talking to the kind of audience that knows what that story is about. We used to tell that story a lot in social services, but the interesting thing about it is it leaves open the question. What did that third woman do when she found the answer to her question? Who's throwing those babies in the water? Now, I've been asked to do two things today. Give a kind of a progressive state-of-the-state analysis of what's up in California. And also, I've been asked, if I can do it, to inspire you. Inspire comes from the breathing, that is to take in something. I'm told, and I know it, people need hope. People need some inspiration. People need help. Just keep on keeping on. Now the problem is how to do both. Because there's poor old California and my report about what's going on in the state. And then there's however we figure out how to inspire each other. When Marisela was talking about Teilhard de Chardin, I was reminded, since we've been given a stone, that Teilhard de Chardin wrote and believed that there was a big cauldron of soul stuff that we all shared, and not just people, but every living thing, and not just the things that we identify as living, but even the very stones of the field, he said, have a piece of that soul. So as you take your stone home, remember, we're taking a piece of that common soul and really not just a memory, but also a memory of this lunch. Okay, poor old California. Well, first let me take you back a little bit. I don't mean historically, but just a step back about states. What is the job of a state? Because a lot of people say, I'd rather work locally. I can see my local representatives. I know what they do. I don't really care that much about who gets elected for the state. And I understand them saying that. But so let's talk about what is it a state does. Okay, on the one hand, it takes in revenue. And to take in revenue fairly from those who benefit from living in the state, like a share of the shared cost. Under a progressive tax structure, each higher increment of income pays a slightly higher percentage. Each piece of property is valued, pays a small portion on the value of that property. A small piece is taken of each transaction, like a sale. To require fees from those whose service demands place a burden on the state that shouldn't be put on all of us as taxpayers, like when we have to clean up pollution and we know where it came from. Okay, so take in revenue, do that fairly, do that justly, do it honestly. Then it's the job of the state to decide how to expend these revenues for the common good. And of course we run into some issues about the definition of the common good. But if justice is the hallmark of your state, you protect those who need help, the poor, the sick, the elderly. You provide free schools, at least up to high school. You do your best to make higher education accessible. That's just the basics. But then there's the question of quality. What kind of a state are you in how you expend your money? Can you provide a good education, free, up through high school? Can you provide a good and accessible education in your institutions of higher learning? Can you provide adequate, at least adequate health care, adequate food, an opportunity to work without barriers or prejudice so that people can have a chance to succeed? So in every one of those areas, California is deteriorating. I won't say it's failing yet, but it's definitely on a downward trajectory. Schools are crowded. Children don't get the kind of support they need to even stay in school, sometimes past. We're starting to see dropouts, 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, much higher in the 8th grade and much higher by the time we get to the 12th grade. Teachers are under fire, we know that. Higher education is all but priced out of reach. Care for the poor and the sick and the elderly and those with disabilities is shrinking to an almost useless level. Because if you give somebody $372 a month, and then you cut it to $361 a month, and then you cut it to $342 a month, pretty soon, although every dollar is important, you are not giving adequate support. Now, I think probably around these tables, you all know the bad news too well. But there's a reason. If you look through a progressive lens for this deterioration, and I would summarize it as the idea and the reality of community is failing in the state. Not in this room, but generally in the state. The idea and the reality of community. My folks, my mom was born in 1911, my dad in 1912. And they went through the Depression. Many of us in this room, I know, had folks in that generation, or certainly grandparents in that generation. And then they went through World War II. And there was something that they talked about community. And they didn't by that mean only people of a certain race or people of a certain economic status. That is community, there's no question. They meant more. They meant connection to people you don't know. Connection to people who are doing things for you and you don't even know them. Like these servers. You don't know them personally, but do you appreciate them? I do. They talked a lot about FDR. That was the first person I ever heard of that had an elected office, that I can remember his name. And they talked about him because the notion they had about it was there was an idea of community, and what they meant by that was we are all connected, like Teilhard de Chardin said. We all come out of the same soul soup, and we are connected, and we have a duty to honor that connection and to make certain that if there's anybody who needs a hand up, that we extend a hand down. FDR used the phrase, common sense for the common good of the common man. I know he meant women too. But that to me really resonates. But what have we got instead? The problem of deterioration in the state is the upward trending of wealth to a very, very small percentage of the people, deterioration of the middle class by loss of jobs, loss of opportunity, loss of the kind of education and training that we need. Why? Because government is an important element in community. If it's going to collect money and distribute money, It is the engine of our aspirations for equality. Families are homeless, families are jobless. It isn't that you want a handout. It's that you want your government to function so that it represents in the state justice and fairness as we see it. But the will to identify ourselves as a community, as a whole state, and again I say not in this room because this is what really distinguishes you and CAUSE and people like us. But in the state, there has been a real loss of the will to identify ourselves as a community. And why? Because people, I think, are fooled. They have been fooled about what is in their own self-interest. Lincoln said you can fool some of the people all the time, and you can fool all the people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time. However, I think that leaves a little tiny window, because a lot of people these days are being fooled. And what are they being fooled about? People have been told for decades that they're at risk, that their families are at risk, that they personally are at risk. And then, of course, by withholding and shrinking and killing government, you put these families at risk, and they say, you see, they were right, we're at risk. But who do they blame? They hate the government, because the government makes them pay taxes, and they don't connect. Many, many people, as you know, when you've been on the phone with them, when you've been at their doors, when you've been around Thanksgiving dinner with them, many people do not connect the deterioration of services in the state and the collection of taxes, because they're afraid, they've been made afraid, that their taxes will go up. However, what's happened, of course, because we're Americans, we always identify with the next class up, because we might get there someday. We've been taught that America is a land of opportunity. So just in case we might get there someday, we better protect the wealthy too. Only we never get there someday. And this disconnect means that virtually everybody in this state, with the exception of maybe the top 5% who have accrued and accrued and accrued and accrued, is worse off than they were. Schools are more crowded, as I said. So the workplace is shrinking and shrinking. Protections are shrinking. Environmental laws are under attack. Okay, I'm giving you a lot of bad news. So what happens? How do we get back? At least back. How do we right the ship, which is listing now in what I consider to be the wrong direction? One of the men who participated in the cabal that planned to kill Hitler and didn't succeed once said, actually right before he was put to death for that attempt, if a train is headed in the wrong direction, it does no good to run backwards up the aisle. We actually already know that. You know, you don't get on the train and then say, I'm going to try to run backwards up the aisle. So what did that third woman do? What did she find? Who was throwing the babies in the water? Well, I think the description of what's happened in the state answers that. So then what did she do? Organize. I'm just sure of it. Because that's the only way I think we're going to fix it. That is the way you have all hit upon to fix it. You get more people and you get more people and you get more people. They insist on policy. They become the people who make the policy, which is a very, very important thing as well. Manuel happened to bring up my ex, with whom I am extremely good friends. And she's now running for the seat that Julia Brownlee and Mike Fuhrer actually are holding pieces of. And she's been a community organizer all her life. And there are community organizers who have run. I've served with Fran, I've served with Hannah Beth, I've served with Julia, and there are many more. And believe me, not enough. That's what it takes, organizing, and that's what you do. CAUSE for 10 years has said, this is how we're going to fix it. This is how we're going to keep the people from drowning. They're deeply engaged now, as Manuel told you, with California Calls. California Calls, a consortium of, I don't even know how many now, 60 grassroots, maybe more organizations that Tori and Anthony Thigpen and many other good people are working on and with. They're simply trying to right, as I said, a listing ship. Get it back to balance. Huge business properties change hands, and they never pay market value, even after it's changed hands. How many of you are banking with a bank that has the same name that it did 5 years ago? Oh, that doesn't look like very many. Your banks, the ones you're banking with now, if you're banking with banks, a lot of us are not, they did not pay when they took over the current banks the assessed value of their bank properties. Same thing with hotels. Some of them have and some of them have not. So there's huge business properties not even paying their fair share. Top earners have had their taxes reduced, and reduced. Because a progressive tax system says this increment will be taxed at 10%. This next increment at 11%. They're not paying that in the state anymore. Warren Buffett said not too long ago he's paying a smaller percentage of his income for taxes than his secretary. And it is true in virtually every place that you go in terms of a percentage. And as you know, the less you make, the more serious it is when you have to pay a percentage. So, Disneyland pays about 5 cents an acre for property tax. I don't own an acre, but I can tell you, I pay more than that in property tax. Even I pay more. So, what to do? Okay, I'm going to tell you because there are things you can do and there are things that you can't do. Some of you here may be familiar. I can not say that I've seen any of you, of course, but I'm sure you're familiar with the Serenity Prayer. Some of you. And you know it goes like this. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So, let's pick the things we can change and work for it. When I was a little girl, I was raised Catholic. Even though my mother's Jewish, my father was Catholic. So I was raised Catholic with an appreciation for Jewishness, which is like, we never talked about religion in my family, I can tell you. But I could not reconcile predetermination with free will. My mother thought God wrote your life out in a book, and that was it. My father's mother, my grandmother, thought you make your history yourself by what you do. So predetermination and free will, and even the church was teaching that there was both. You had to choose not to sin, but we already knew what you were going to do. So I tried to draw a picture that would make sense to me of it. And my picture was me, of course, in the middle of it, stick figure, rainbow over me. The rainbow was the stuff I couldn't change. When I was born, who I was born to, what part of the world I lived in, what my circumstances were, what history was going on around me, what wars, what peace, what, who was president, all that stuff. But between me and the rainbow, there was some airspace. And that's how I pictured free will. I could jump up and down, I could move left, I could move right, I could make some choices. So that's what we want to do. It's kind of like we're seeing a couple of examples now. Redistricting, for instance. You do everything you can to make it come out right. And then it comes out, and it's done. And some of it feels right, and some of it feels wrong, but it's done. So, well, of course, it's being challenged in court, so who knows. But when it's done, what do we do about it? We make sure the right people are elected in every district and try to get it done. The more that are like us, the better, in my opinion. Then there's another re that's coming along, realignment. It's a nice word for we're going to put all of the responsibility on delivering services on the counties and maybe we'll give you some money to do it. Das is nodding. It's a little more complicated than that, but there will be decisions made, generally in Sacramento, about what services counties are going to have to provide. Childcare, some childcare was taken out of Prop 98 and doesn't have the guarantee at the moment for that. We don't know whether that will be funded or not. May come to the county, may stay in the state. These are not going to be things that you and I as individuals are going to have a lot to do with. But when it's done, we're going to have a lot to do with how it's done. And I want us to keep our eyes on the prize about how these services will be provided in counties and in cities. There's going to be a lot of things like that. And I know you're saying to yourself now, but I'm just one person, or I'm a group of people. How can I do this? So I want to leave you with one last story, and it's a story that I finish a lot of my speeches with. But it's because it really makes the point I want to make to you. It's a story you may know very well, you may know a little bit, you may have seen the movie, and you may not have seen the movie, but it's The Wizard of Oz. Now, the way I see The Wizard of Oz is quite a different one, I think, than most people see it. First of all, it's a story of a very diverse group of entities, the most diverse you'll ever see. A scarecrow, a tin man, a lion, and a little girl who's lost her home because of a tornado and ended up in some really weird place. First of all, she came from a black and white place and ended up in a colored place, which I always thought was that's a step up right there. Okay, so here they are. They meet each other very much by accident. They start helping each other as they can, help the scarecrow off of his perch, oil can for the tin man, draw the lion out of his fearful place. But the thing that actually bonds them together is that they all think they're deficient in some way. The scarecrow says, I don't have any brains. The tin man says, I don't have any heart. The lion says, I don't have any courage. Dorothy, of course, just wants to get back home. And it doesn't occur to them at the beginning that there's any way in their power that they're going to get these things. They believe that they have to make a long and very dangerous journey to ask a very powerful person to grant them what they need. So they set off on this journey together, mutual assistance, and they face a lot of dangers together. And while you watch it, you see that they're already exhibiting the things that they think they need. Some brains, some courage, some heart. And they get to the great city of Oz because they want to see the wizard and ask him to grant their wishes. And the door is locked. And they talk their way in, something that I'm sure you can all identify with. By hook or by crook, they get into Oz. They actually get an appointment with the great wizard. However, Dorothy is kidnapped by a great malevolent force arrayed against her that no one knows what to do with. Now, in this story, it's a witch, and the women in this room will talk about that later. But there are malevolent forces, and Dorothy is kidnapped along with her dog Toto. And so the three are left to face the wizard, to ask for help. And the scarecrow and the tin man and the lion go in to face the wizard, and he is so gigantously scary because there's a big head, a very serious looking head, and lots of lights and flashing things and thunder noises and scary things going on. And they ask the wizard, please, for help, and the wizard says, I'm not going to do it. Go away. Why should I care about you? And they continue to beg him, and he says, okay, I'll make a deal with you. You bring me the broomstick of the Wicked Witch, and I'll help you. So they think, well, how are we going to do that? But they set off, the three of them, on yet another dangerous journey, using their brains, using their heart, using their courage. They get to the witch's castle. They disguise themselves to get in. They rescue Dorothy and Toto. They almost make their escape, but the witch catches them. And she threatens the scarecrow with fire, the most scary thing that a scarecrow can face. And so, without thinking, They grab up a bucket of water to put out the fire, they throw the water, and they hit the witch, who starts to melt. Who knew? It's kind of a sweet story in a way, you know? It's like, oh yeah, we're not warriors, we didn't mean to kill her. It's not a bad thing that we did it, but you know. So she melts and melts and melts, and it's interesting because her last lines are, what a world, what a world, what a world. Which I've always been thinking about my whole life. Why did she say that? So now they've got the broomstick, they go back to the wizard, they go in, the four of them and Toto, and they face that phantasmagorical, scary image. Lots of light, lots of noise, lots of big talking and whatever, and they're just mesmerized by the image, all except for Toto, who notices there's a little booth over on the side with a curtain across it, kind of like this one, moving. And Toto trots over and pulls the curtain back, revealing a kind of old-looking ordinary guy who's turning a lot of dials and punching buttons in order to make this gigantous image. That's Sacramento. Now, in all fairness, you want it to be. I think people want there to be a wizard. Somebody who's going to solve all their problems. And the wizard knows it, because the first thing he does is he turns around and says to them, pay no attention to that old man behind the curtain. But it's over. They found him. So he says, okay, you caught me. So I'm going to grant your wishes. And he gets out a big bag, and he says to the Scarecrow, you know what, Scarecrow? Most people have no more brains than you have. What they have is a diploma. And he pulls a diploma out of his sack and hands it to the Scarecrow. And the Scarecrow goes, I can't even remember what the formula is for the isosceles triangle, but apparently it is the sign of being really smart, and he says it. And the wizard says to the Tin Man, you know what, Tin Man? Most people have no more heart than you have. What they do have is a testimonial watch. Inscribed on the back, great, compassionate heart. And he pulls a kind of a clock shaped like a heart out of his bag, gives it to the Tin Man, who puts it in his chest where we keep our tickers. And he starts to cry oil tears, which we now remember he's been doing all along. And the wizard says to the lion, you know what, lion? Most people have no more courage than you have. What they do have is a medal that says valor. And he picks out the medal from his sack, he pins it kind of marine fashion on the poor lion, who then becomes the security chief of Oz. Now, I know that you know what the point is here, because you're living it every day. You already have everything you need to make change happen. You already have everything within you need to make the world a world where social justice is a reality. There is no wizard. It's just us. But I have faith in you, because I've seen your work. So just go out and do it. Thank you.
That is hard to follow for all sorts of reasons. I hadn't really realized the political message of The Wizard of Oz, so I want to thank Sheila for that. Although I will admit that when you were talking about the wizard and the fantastic image with lots of noise, and then eventually the wizard saying, pay no attention to the old man behind the curtain, I kept thinking of Fox News. One last comment, one introduction, and we'll go forward. 5 cents an acre? Disneyland, 5 cents an acre? That really is the Magic Kingdom. I was asked to introduce, particularly since the California Federation of Teachers is such an important sponsor of this event, the fact that the president, Josh Pectal, is here. Could you stand up, Josh? Josh and I actually went to college together, so please don't ask him about that era. So as difficult as it is to follow our good friend Sheila, let's give her another round of applause. Wasn't that inspirational? We do have a few other things for you. We have a short film, and I believe it's ready to roll. Arturo?
Would like to welcome and thank you for joining us to celebrate a decade of causing change.
One tribe, one time, one planet, one race. It's all one blood, don't care about your face, color of your eye, or the tone of your skin. Don't care where you are, don't care where you been. Cause where we gonna go is where we wanna be. The place where the native language is unity. It's one tribe, y'all. One tribe, y'all. One tribe, y'all. We are one people, one people, one people, one people, one people, one people, one people.
CAUSE was established out of the living wage movement. This was a national movement that recognized that throughout the country there was a growing increase in families living in poverty. These were families where one or more members of the household were working 1, 2, sometimes 3 jobs, but still unable to make ends meet. This was also a recognition that many cities were actually subsidizing the growth of working poverty by outsourcing many public sector jobs to contractors who were paying poverty wages. Over the years, CAUSE led efforts to adopt living wage ordinances in the city of Port Hueneme, city of Oxnard, County of Ventura, and the city of Ventura, and also assisted in the adoption of a living wage ordinance in the city of Santa Barbara.
CAUSE Central Mujer grew out of an effort with SEIU 721, where we helped organize in-home support service workers. And as a result of that community and labor effort, we realized that there was a real need to focus on women's economic justice, especially low-wage working and immigrant women. So CAUSE Central Mujer grew as a community organizing center through that effort. And since then, women have developed their leadership, have advocated for expanded healthcare access for children, thousands of uninsured children throughout the county.
In 2007, a company that is the largest mining company in the world, BHP Billiton, decided they wanted to locate a liquefied natural gas terminal off Oxnard. The proposal was that it would be located off our coast. That natural gas was coming frozen across the Pacific. It was frozen so that more could be stored, and it's very dangerous, very dirty, very polluting. It offers very few jobs, and probably jobs for people who don't live here in our community. And I think the reason that Oxnard was the location was because they felt that the community in Oxnard would not pay attention, would not fight, couldn't fight, wouldn't have the political muscle to say, no, we don't want it here. It was organized block by block, and we knocked on doors, and people who lived in Oxnard, we went to everybody. We went to business leaders, farm workers, we went to single moms, environmental groups, social groups, civic groups, we went to city council, we went to our board of supervisors, we went to our legislators. Our congresswoman was really great on this issue. We made a common cause with people of Malibu, Santa Barbara, Ventura. This belongs to all of us. We can't let somebody wreck it. We have to care what happens to our coastline. But it was the people that came out and said no. And that's what made the difference.
CAUSE is also involved in the South Oxnard revitalization of the Ormond Beach wetlands. The wetlands are important to save because they're going to create a park that goes hand in hand with it. Gateway Park is going to teach residents and other people how to protect our bird species and also other natural resources. And it's a great park that we can all use.
What our work at CAUSE has been able to do is to bring new leaders, people that nobody's seen at a city council hearing before. And that is very powerful. When politicians see someone new in the room, that's very, very powerful.
So California CAUSE has a strategy based on building grassroots power and regional high-capacity anchors to achieve a tipping point in winning progressive reform in California.
Communities get taken advantage of when they have no power. And they have no power because they don't vote. And by getting new communities, communities of color, working class communities to vote, that will translate into power and will translate into a difference in the kind of politics and work that gets done in that community.
We need flagships. We need organizations that can provide leadership and inspiration to developing anchors and developing groups, and CAUSE certainly plays that function as well.
Getting people that are left out of the power structure back in, and to a point where they can affect the decision-making of politicians and therefore affect the decision-making for a community.
The Central Coast is a key region in California, and so we would hope for the next 10 years there's a very powerful 6-county alliance that CAUSE is the anchor of.
Really respecting the electoral power of folks associated with CAUSE and it affecting the votes.
We wanted to continue to play that role of providing leadership at the state level, inspiration to developing anchors so they can become causes in their own region.
What role will you play in causing change in the next 10 years?
Continuing to mentor young leaders.
Show them how to help the community. Show them that we care, that we need them.
To get involved in my community, to get back to my community. And ever since, I just got involved and I started to love it.
2011 is CAUSE's 10th anniversary, and we want you to be part of this. We want you to be part of not only celebrating those 10 years of accomplishments, but also being part of CAUSE in the next 10 years.
CAUSE is people.
Be an advocate, be an organizer, be one of our community leaders.
CAUSE is community.
We need you. Be a member of CAUSE.
CAUSE is growth.
Let's make this region a just, prosperous, and environmentally healthy region. Together we can do that.
CAUSE is justice.
CAUSE is you.
So this film, a great film, was produced locally by a group of CAUSE youth leaders in collaboration with the amazing team from Regenerate Films. This group of young filmmakers under the tutelage of CAUSE board member and chairman of the Regenerate Films board, Larry Jantz. Can you stand up, please? Let's thank him. And veteran filmmaker David Miller. Is David here today? But let's give him a round of applause and extension. They've been making some incredible independent films over the last several years, including Archie's final project. And we want to thank particularly Larry Jantz, as I mentioned, but can other people from the CAUSE film team please stand up?
I would like to introduce T.J. Oscar, the production manager of Regenerate, and the one that really is the brains of work behind the
Thank you, Larry. Yeah. Doss, your car's in the way. I'm actually kind of serious. Is Doss here? Okay. Dude, go for it. Move that car. Okay. So I'd also like to mention that several young people worked with CAUSE on this and other film projects who are products of Oxnard's own, Oxnard College's film and television program. Let's give that program a round of applause. And it's important for you to know that this is a 30-year-old program that is currently on jeopardy of being eliminated due to budget cuts. So as you work with CAUSE and allied organizations around tax reform and the state budget, let's make sure that we continue to support important local college programs like this one. I think some of the students are here, and you can speak to them. Are the students here? Yeah, right back there, okay. Please ask them what you can do as adults to support their work and who it is that you can talk to about making sure that they get the funding that they need. As we saw in the film for CAUSE, Meaningful Social Change is about 7 generations, and it's about bringing up a new generation of youth leadership as well. CAUSE is very committed to this issue, and to share with you a little more about the role youth leaders have in the CAUSE organization, I'd like to introduce to you one of CAUSE's youth leaders, Vincent Gasca. Vincent, can you come up, please?
First of all, before I give my speech, I would just like to say how humbled I am to be on this podium in front of all of you people. You guys make me feel so young, and also, this opportunity that I had to speak in front of this podium with all of you was something I never would have imagined I would be doing my whole life. Well, in my lifetime. And this is something I would typically see in a movie. A lot of people beautifully dressed in expensive suits, eating expensive food in an expensive place. And I'm just completely humbled to be here. Hello and good morning. My name is Vincent Gasca, and I live in South Austin. I'm a junior at 8th Charter High School in Camarillo. Before going there, I was at Wanimi High School. This summer, I got to participate in the youth internship program at CAUSE. I had been involved with CAUSE for 2 years before starting the internship. It was an amazing learning experience. This experience opened my eyes to see new things, ask difficult questions, and opened my mind to think in a different perspective. I heard about CAUSE through a Latino youth leadership organization called Future Leaders of America. A CAUSE member came to our meeting and made a PowerPoint presentation encouraging us to join in their activities. I learned that CAUSE was an organization that was helping low-income families by empowering them, encouraging them to use their voice and take control of their circumstance. Being that I am from a low-income family, I was quick to join. During my time in the internship, I got to organize people from my community to come to a very successful community action forum. At the forum, we had elected officials make promises to their community to fix some of the problems we were currently dealing with, such as getting healthier food in public schools. After working with many youth and people from my community, I learned many techniques that made me a better leader and individual. Public speaking is my favorite thing to do, and I'm at a point in my time in the internship to get better at it because I feel that you should be the best at what you love to do. I faced some challenges while in the internship, such as trying to organize people and being persuasive in my arguments. Organizing people to come to any type of meeting is something that is not easy to do. However, the other youth that I worked with were very supportive and always willing to help me organize because they knew how to organize very well. At CAUSE, we were planning to get more youth volunteers to be interns like I was to make even bigger changes next year to further help our community. I feel that these programs are very necessary to help youth in our community have a supportive and beneficial outlook. Skills you learn at this program can and will help you in your life in the future. It is extremely rewarding to see youth take action and ownership in their community. I would like to thank everyone in this room for being here today. This experience has been such a revelation. I feel that if we want to see the change being made in our community, then we have to change it ourselves. Thank you, everybody in this room.
Vincent, you do have a career ahead of you as a public speaker, I think. As someone who speaks publicly, though, one bit of advice, it's usually good to begin by not implying that the audience is old. That's what all of us were thinking about. We're like, yeah, right, you know. I know. I'm going to be putting some ice on my knee on the way home. So as we come to the close of the luncheon, I want to ask two important cause leaders to join me on the stage. CAUSE's 2011 Luncheon Committee member, Reverend Jim Kilmer, and CAUSE board member and chair of CAUSE's Fund Development Committee, Dr. Lenore Harrod. Please come up.
Hello again. Come on now. I'm a pastor. You got to say amen. You got to say what's up. You got to say something back to it. All right. This has been a great day. Go ahead. Don't patty cake. Give some applause. Thank you. This is a very important time within our luncheon. And I know we've had a lot of great humor, great speaker. The youth speaker, you're the man. Next mayor. Thank you. However, I mentioned earlier in the beginning of the luncheon that I had this 3 a.m. sort of wake up. And being a pastor and a speaker, and I have to take it to the heart. So Marcos, the script is done. I can't stay with the script. I got to speak from the heart, brother. And I know you're right there with me. I know I have 3 minutes, but the fact of the matter, I was on the beach this morning. We've heard a lot of interesting stories about the crises we're in right now. And it took me back. I see some faces in here, from 30 years ago when I got started in social justice work and working with the homeless. And I know that there's donors that have basically started CAUSE 10 years ago. And to you, I take my hat off. I commend you. And I think those of you that began this vision, we should also give you an applause as well. But on the beach this morning, I saw 2 sparrows as I was sitting down. The sparrow is a bird that is the least among us, has no notoriety, not honored. It reminded me of the speakers today and what they were saying. And Sheila, I must tell you, the story you mentioned about the babies was, I was going to share that same story. So I know I'm in the right place. I know I'm in tandem with what we're talking about, because those babies are my babies. They're my daughter, who can't find a job, although she's a college graduate. They're my son, who's been unemployed for almost 14 months, a young African-American male. They're the kids that I've been seeing on A Street, down at Zumba, at Cafe on A, that can't find work. They're the members within organizations like BAPAC and NAACP, families that are low income and struggling. The members of churches like Evangelistic Baptist Center and the pastors here, who in their family resource center has worked with people for years. Those babies are at risk. And I believe the reason I'm here today, and I've joined Marcos after 30 years of that seed being planted. Bear with me. When we first started together in this work, it's taken 30 years for that seed to develop. But I'm here with cause because of the urgency in our community and the critical nature, because those are my babies. It's touched me personally. And I believe cause is an organization, through all of us working together, that's going to make those changes upstream. So I want to encourage you today, in this 10-year celebration, that we make a sacrificial gift. For me, the next 10 months, I'm going to make a monthly pledge to cause, not only of my time, but my personal resources. And I'm asking you, those of you who know me and know the work that we've done, Marcos, Cause, and I, my other fellow members of Table 6, and many of you, let's make a sacrificial gift today and make change in our community. Join me, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Wow. My heart really sings in these dark days to be in a room like this of almost 400 of you that talk the talk and walk the walk and give me hope. But I'm greedy. I want more hope. I really do. Magnificent Maricela used the theme of fire, you know, and I really have thought, cause really knows how to start a fire. And they're a candle in that darkness. But I want more than that. I want a floodlight. I really want to see that we do not only look back proudly on the 10 years and going from ground zero up to what's been built now, but looking forward. So why am I up here today? You know, first I thought, well, you know, we got this USC guy and I'm from UCLA, and they're putting us on afterwards, but I want you to know there are Bruins here too. Yeah. So this is a little bit of a counterbalance. You know, we try harder, they get paid more. I'm on the board of Cause, and that is the group that hasn't stood up, and I keep pleading with these guys to show the board, because this is an incredible, colorful, diverse group. You can't believe that that group can work in harmony. So let's just, board members, stand up for a minute. Now that is not a well-paid job, but look at this, look at this, yeah. As a matter of fact, as a board member, it's kind of monetarily a negative balance, but certainly from the pride we have, well worth it. It's because I'm the head of fundraising, and I tell you, I don't know how they put me in that. You know, my husband's much better than this. I can't sell Girl Scout cookies, but they were so bad at it. They took someone bad and it got a little bit better. You know, these guys are so modest. They don't want to ask anyone. They want to friend raise. They don't want to fundraise. I said, let's have a goal. And they said, well, you know, okay, we're here. Let's add another $10 to it. And I said, come on, 10th anniversary. Let's get a $100,000 goal. You know, we don't want to look backwards. We want to guarantee the future. I have some relatives staying with me right now. We had a memorial at sea for my uncle on Monday. They're from Chicago, and they visited, they're from Chicago, and they visited they went to a musical event there and went to this magnificent new auditorium and concert hall, the Copeland Hall, and they thought it was so wonderful, and they went afterwards and said, gee, is this named after Aaron Copland? And the usher said, no, it's named after Sam Copeland. And they said, Sam Copeland? Who's he? And they said, oh, he's a writer. And they said, oh, I never heard of him. What did he write? And they said, he wrote a check. So here is your opportunity. Here is your opportunity to be a writer. Yeah. Okay, so yes, we're all getting, the Marcos told us what to say, and I didn't say anything that he said yet either. But we're looking forward to what can we do the next 10 years, and this is in the middle of your program. Some of those key words are, as you heard them, electoral reform, growing 100 new leaders. That's just next year, not the next 10 years. We are looking forward to training network members. We're looking forward to building local and regional coalitions. We're looking forward to tax reform, green space, nutrition, which is close to my heart, public transportation. Now, I was told to also mention why Cause. I've been asked to be on a number of boards, and this board, first of all, called this group called my attention because I'm really interested and want Sheila to know it, healthcare for all, single payer. I've lived it in Europe. I know it would be tremendously important for us to have. And CAUSE supported having a declaration on healthcare, and that's how I got started with CAUSE. But I've stayed with CAUSE because they know how to make things happen. They really know how to make things work. Our goal is $100,000. It's a 10-year anniversary. We need support at all levels. This is the main appeal of the year. It's our only big opportunity to reach that goal. So the table hosts are going to pass out the envelopes. As you heard, checks, credit cards, anything can be used to pay this. And what I want to do is challenge you. We don't have a picture of that diagram. The diagram's exactly in the middle of your program of where we are and where we want to get. But because I would normally give CAUSE $500, but it's the 10th anniversary, I'm going to do 10 times 100, 1,000, and I'm going to challenge anyone to meet me on that. There you go. There we go. All right. We got Larry. We got Dan. Super, super. So.
I want to call or actually polarize the Obama campaign.
Obama's new campaign slogan. I'm in. All right. He's in. Okay. So here we go on this, and I think Manuel's also bringing out his checkbook, and I am just so proud to be part of this organization. And turn it back to our master of ceremony.
Let's thank Jim and Lamont. Yeah, actually, this is better than last year because last year, as Marcos knows, I came and said, I'm going to give money, but I forgot my checkbook. Can you write a check for me? But this is my 5th year doing this. In the first year, I gave 100. The second year, I gave 200. Third year, 300, 400. This year, I'll give $500 to CAUSE. So here's the check. I'm hoping that this means you'll never invite me again or I'll go broke. But I'll just say one last word. We give to many causes, but there's really only one cause. There's only one kind of organization that is weaving together all of these aspects of the environment, economic justice, sustainability, and spirituality, helping us find meaning as we go through these difficult times. CAUSE, you are my heroes.
What can I say? I am really overwhelmed. First of all, Sheila, gracias. Thank you for those inspiring, insightful words. Manuel, as usual, you are brilliant. And all of you, once again, thank you for being here. We've gone over, I always prided myself on having a program that ended right on time, so bear with us, we're a little bit over, but I've got a lot of gratitude, and I'm just really overwhelmed. We have a number of people here. We have a board under Dr. Greg Freeland. Where's Greg? Over here. Greg, stand up, please. Under the leadership of Greg Freeland, this board of directors is doing amazing work. And our staff. I have a blessing every morning. I get to go to work and work with incredible, dedicated people like Maricela Morales. Our Deputy Executive Director, Maricela, please stand up. As well as all the other members of the staff. Cameron Yee, where are you? Beatriz, our organizer. Araceli, Miguel, Lalo, where are you? We couldn't do this event without Lalo. He's an amazing person. If you have a chance to say hello to Lalo, please do. The table host, you guys, thank you so much. We tried to, we decided to do a community organizing thing where we actually try to organize every table host at your table for the last several months. They have not only become table hosts, they become CAUSE community builders. They become people who go out and speak on behalf of CAUSE and talk about our work. So for the table hosts, thank you so much. Let's give them a hand. Again, please bear with me. Again, all the sponsors, the sponsors, particularly the community banks. They were in this whole economic meltdown. There were some bad banks that did a lot of bad things, and there were actually some good banks who did some good things. And they were our community banks. Montecito Bank and Trust, California First. Where are you guys? Can you stand up as well, our bank? Let's support our community banks. First California. And in speaking of that, this coming year, we are going to put together a community economic development roundtable. And Rodney Fernandez and Marnie over at Montecito Bank and Trust, Marnie Brooke, are going to co-chair that. But speaking of Rodney Fernandez, you know, a moment ago, Maricela talked about we stand on the shoulders of giants. Well, we have the honor to have somebody in our midst for 30 years has given to this community, has given leadership to the community, has founded an organization that's given us over 1,500 quality, affordable, low-income housing. Rodney Fernandez, please stand up. Rodney Fernandez, you're retiring, but you're leaving a legacy of an organization, and your staff, your incredible staff, are going to continue to do work for generations to come. So again, we thank you, brother. And again, all our community partners, we cannot do this work without them. There are groups like Pueblo, like Hermandad Mexicana, like Future Leaders of America, Cabrillo Economic Development Corporation, the Black American Political Association, LULAC, the Evangelistic Mission Baptist Church, NAACP, and many more, including the California Congress of Seniors. Hank, happy 80th birthday again. Needed to say that. We do this, we can only do this with our sister organizations. So we thank them all, including the Social Justice Fund, who is having an event on October 19th. I told them I would stick that in there somehow. Thank you guys for the work you're doing. There's a flyer at each table as well as you leave. But I really have to talk about our partners in organized labor. The California Federation of Teachers, the SCIU, United Food and Commercial Workers Union, the building trades. We are working together more than ever before because the issues facing us, high unemployment, our poverty in our communities, we can only do together with organized labor. So organized labor, you are amazing. We will continue to work with you closely. And I want you to all be aware that in the next several days, you will hear about whether our brother and sister grocery workers are going to have to go on strike just to defend basic minimal health benefits. We need to support them, so keep that in mind. Our prayers go out to the grocery workers who are represented by United Food and Commercial Workers. And of course, our community leaders, who at Centro Mujer and Santa Paula and Ventura Avenue, they're the ones who really make this happen. They're the ones who identify the issues that we move forward, and we thank them. And last but not least, again, thank you all for being part of the solution, to being part of making this a movement for social change. And I hope I said everyone. Oh yes, there's another group I want to talk about, real briefly, our progressive elected officials. Thank you for your work to carry a progressive agenda, a pro-environment agenda, and a pro-working people's agenda. We will continue to work with you, you electeds, and there's a lot of you here. We will continue to work with you, and we will support you. But as a progressive community, we will also keep you accountable. And I know you wouldn't want it any other way. I forgot an organizer who just came off of the cause staff, Ariana Millman, an amazing organizer who's done some incredible work in Santa Paula. She's going back to school, an accomplished musician, an amazing organizer. We look forward to hearing more from Ariana. Thank you so much, sister. And with that, how can we not end this beautiful gathering of people committed to social justice without the unity clap? I heard a sir. Oh, I'm sorry. That was sir. Someone wanted some coffee. I thought they were speaking to the podium. So does anyone know about the unity clap? I know Grant House knows how it goes. Si se puede. We can do it. Thank you all. And one last thing. Immediately following this event, we're going to have a community dialogue. So if you're all fired up and you want to give cause some of your vision, some of your ideas for moving forward for the next 10 years, just join us in the the snack area at the end of the hotel by the golf course, and we're going to have a round table for about 45 minutes. Thank you so much.